All right, so hello everyone. Welcome to How Body Language Works, the free online workshop. I'm Arby Kelly, Body Language Boss, and this workshop is designed to talk about the role of body language in sales, management, and leadership. So some people think, oh, I'm not in sales. Well, if you are a mother or if you are a leader or doing anything in the community where you want people to do something, you need to persuade them to your way of thinking. And so you are, in fact, in sales. Even if sales is not in your job description, you need to persuade the people around you to do or think in a way that you want them to, which makes you in sales. And as for management and leadership, you might have an official position, or you just might be the person that people look to for guidance. And all of that is so much more effective when your body language is working for you instead of against you. So before we get started, I want you to find the chat. And I'm going to send a little box, and I want you to watch your screens. You should see something ping up, something flash in your chat. I want you to find the chat, and there in the chat is a link to this workbook. Now, I'm going to be scrolling through the workbook, but you can use the workbook to follow along, to cheat and skip ahead. And there are also links at the end that if you can't click on my screen. So if you try to click on these links in here without having opened your own workbook, you're going to miss out. All right, so go ahead. I'll say another little hi message. Hi, over here. Pick me. And follow that message that should be popping up. That is your chat. Find the chat, click on the workbook link. With that said, let's set some ground rules. From the very beginning, you may have noticed I am muting people as they come in. So that's not because I don't want you to talk to me. That's because I know you are busy. You probably have things going on in the background. Kids, coworkers, what have you, dogs barking. You don't want that to disturb the people around you, but I do want to hear from you. The reason I do live workshops instead of just pre-recorded monologues is because I actually want to hear from you. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear your comments. Even if you think it's stupid, I can guarantee someone else on the call is thinking that also. So if you have a question, if something doesn't make sense, or if that reminds you of something, please feel free. Put it in the chat. And if it's something you want to talk through, you can ask me to unmute you, or you can just unmute yourself. That is something you can do. If you fiddle around with your Zoom controls, there will be a little microphone, and you can click on it, and it will unmute you. So with that said, at any moment, please feel free to chime in and say, hey, this doesn't make sense, or hey, what about this? And I will be super happy to hear from you. All right? These workshops are always way more fun when people participate. So even if you're feeling shy, you can send a message to me privately, or you can send a message to the group. No big deal. That said, let's get started. So first off, what even is body language? What does that even mean? Now, if you look at the dictionary, supposedly body language is the process of communicating non-verbally through conscious or unconscious gestures or movements. So what does that mean? Communicating without words, on purpose or on accident, using gestures and movements. So for example, when I move my hands, that's body language. When I lean in, that's body language. When I look at the camera or when I look down, that is body language. Even this hand gesture I just did, body language. So body language, it's a way of moving, and your movements have meaning, and your movements might be on purpose or they might not be. But all of that is communicating. In practice, body language, when you master your body language, it becomes a way to send messages to other people about your confidence, your trustworthiness, and your capability, whether you're good at what you do or not. And you send that to other people in a way that they instinctively understand and believe. So if you were to meet someone and say, hey, by the way, I'm a super trustworthy person who's confident in myself and I'm here to help you. They would, if you just said that outright to someone, they would probably think that's really weird. Maybe you're bragging, you're coming off kind of creepy. but you can say all of that through body language. And when it comes to body language, that isn't creepy. That's how people are instinctively reading you. All right, so this body language is how you make a good impression. And it's actually the most important way you communicate with people. So there is a myth about body language. And the myth is that body language is an afterthought, that you don't have to worry about it, that words are the prime way of communicating, and that words are more effective, more honest, and more clear. That is not the case at all. In fact, it's basically the opposite. The reality is that body language is clearly broadcasting your emotions, your intentions, your motivations. It broadcasts how you're feeling, and it's more honest, more persuasive, and more impactful than words. So, for example, just to show this, I'm sure you've had it happen where someone comes up to you and says, "I'm fine." Now, I want you to look at this. So I've got folded arms, I've got an angry face, furrowed eyebrows, but my words are saying I'm fine. So if you had to compare my words to my body language, you tell me in the chat, am I really fine? If I come up to you and I say, I'm fine. Does this look like a person who's fine? Not really. You can instinctively tell that the words are not lining up with the body language. And when those two don't line up, we believe the body language. And so the way this gets us into trouble is, say you're in a sales conversation and you have a product that you think is good, but maybe it's an off day, you're a little tired, you're a little frustrated, and so you're saying this is a great product and you should buy it, but your body language is saying, I hate your guts. You're not going to make that sale. Even though you're trying to communicate good things to the other person, because you are tired and frustrated and hungry, hangry even, all of that is going to be coming through. And that's why it's so important to know exactly what messages you're sending and to have deliberate control over as much of your body language as you can. Because otherwise, you have no idea what you're sending. You have no idea how it's being interpreted. And you have no idea how it's being misinterpreted. And that gets people into a whole lot of trouble. All right. So body language is something you do naturally. It's something you're born with. Actually, the majority of body language is exactly the same all across the world. Most of the time, the same facial expressions and the same body movements mean the same things. Now, there are some differences. For example, emblems and counting. The number 1 in one part of the country might be designated by this in a different country, whereas this in the US is like, good luck, yeah, that's great. And in other places, that's not what it means, and it's a bad thing to do. So there are some differences in body language. Most of that comes down to like emblems, deliberate gestures, basically, or eye contact. And there are occasionally differences in how acceptable it is to be close to someone. For example, in the Middle East, like being this close is more acceptable than it is here in the US. So there are small differences in body language, but on the whole, most body language is universal. Just a fun fact. That wasn't in the program because I didn't plan to say it. But anyway, I am RB Kelly. So you might be wondering, how do I know about this body language stuff? Where did this come from? Well, growing up, I actually didn't know about this body language stuff. In fact, my parents thought I was slightly autistic because I had such a hard time reading people and connecting to people. People are so confusing. And that led to me being really isolated. I didn't have any friends. I didn't get along with people. Most of my teachers didn't like me. And, you know, as a teenager, that is really hard. Being a teenager is hard enough when you don't have friends and you're not confident in yourself. And so that was a really, really difficult time for me. But my mom gave me a body language book about how to like win friends and influence people. And that was the beginning for me. From there on, I began reading as many body language books as I could find. Today, I actually have dozens and dozens and dozens of body language books because that passion has continued. But I started by becoming a self-taught little body language guru. I went to college, I met and used my body language skills to win over my husband after a disastrous first impression. And then I found a private human behavior research lab. And that is where I was formally certified in body language and communication. So now I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I've worked with lots and lots and lots of people. I've worked with realtors, teachers, students, financial advisors, insurance salesmen, all sorts of things. And so this is my livelihood. This is what I do. I teach body language so that people can take where they are is usually average. Like you're good at what you do, but you know you could be better, but you're not sure how to kick it up to the next level. Usually body language is that missing piece. And it's what takes a sales presentation from average up to awesome. And it's what takes a manager from mediocre up to mighty. And yeah, that was a little much on the alliterations, but that is the difference that it makes. All right, so before we jump into how it works, let's tackle one question coming in from the chat. Santana is asking, how do you account for personality signals? And it is true that individual humans will have particular quirks. These are often called punctuators. So a punctuator is a particular habit that a person has, a body language cue that they send not because they mean it, but because it's a habit. And so those usually start off as something that they think works. For example, in high school, before I knew about body language, I thought that smirking was a really good way to like smile and show that I was cool. I didn't feel confident about my teeth, so I would smirk instead. And that became a habit for me. That became one of my facial punctuators. But little did I know that this is not actually a cool, oh, I'm so awesome signal, oh, let's be friends signal. It's actually the signal for contempt. It's a smirk. It's a signal of resentment, dislike, and loathing. So you can imagine that me walking around with my little smirk did not win many friends. And so this is just one example of you might have a little quirk that you do, or someone in your circle might have a little body language quirk, and they might not know what it means or what it's sending, which is why it is so important to build awareness and mastery over your body language signals. Santana, let me know if that answers your question, and if not, feel free to rephrase. All right, in the meantime, you might want to know how it works. How does body language work? Well, there are actual centers in your brain that read and code body language. They interpret the body language cues that you see, and they decide which signals to send out. And the way this works, if you can imagine, everyone is walking around with a big speaker that is like broadcasting how they feel. And so when that person walks up and says, I'm fine, their words are saying one thing, but their body language is clearly broadcasting a different message. And that's how it is for you. Every second, every minute, every hour of the day, you are sending signals about how you feel, what you want, and where you fit in the social ladder compared to the people around you. So when you interpret a body language signal, you see something happen and these areas in your brain light up. And what happens, especially before you are consciously aware of body language, is instead of thinking, oh, James has tilted his head and leaned forward at 13 degrees and is smiling with the corners of his eyes, you instead think, I think he likes to talk about this. You aren't able to pin down exactly what body language cues people are using. You don't even notice body language cues. You're not paying attention to those at all. And so instead of consciously reading them, those little signals in your brain are noticing them and turning them into gut feelings. This is where intuition comes from. So if you've ever gotten a gut feeling about someone right away that you either liked them or disliked them, it's almost entirely based on their body language. And most of the time, your gut feelings end up being right. So you should pay attention to those. Now, the problem with broadcasting on autopilot is that there's this scene in, let's see, what is that TV show called? It's about the Secretary of State. I think that might be what it's called, the Secretary of State. But no, that's not what it's called. And if you know what it's called, please let me know. But in this TV show, the Secretary of State has a political opponent who is trying to bring her down and trying to cause trouble in politics by saying something he doesn't actually believe. And so she goes to meet with him when he is preparing for a media interview. And if you haven't done a media interview, one of the things they do is they mic you up. Right before you get on stage, they will mic you up. And then if they don't need you right away, they'll put you in a green room where you can just like hang out, but you're mic'd up. And so as the Secretary of State went back into the green room to see this political enemy, she noticed his microphone was on. And that meant he was recording, and the people in the sound booth could hear what he was saying. And so she asked him what he really thought about his public stance. And he said, "It's total BS. I don't believe that, but I'm going to use it to bring you down." And the media who'd recorded that ran with it, and it totally destroyed his credibility. And the moral of that story is, if you don't know that you're broadcasting your emotions, you can end up getting yourself in a lot of trouble. And that's how it is with your body language. If you don't like someone, it comes across in your body language. If they're paying attention, they can tell. If you think someone is an idiot or is a liar, it comes across in your body language. On the other hand, if you're feeling like nervous and shy and you're not sure about this and that comes across as you being maybe a little incompetent, maybe a bit of a liar, and it works against you. That is why it is so important to know what body language signals you are sending so that you can deliberately persuade people to your point of view. That's how it works with sales, in management, and in leadership. So the next time you open your mouth to speak, ask yourself, what is the rest of your body saying? Because that is the most important part of the message. All right, so in sales, your body language is the first thing that your clients and potential clients will evaluate about you. They use it to decide if you're honest, trustworthy, capable. They read your body language to see if you have confidence in your product and in yourself. And if the answer is no, even if they are misjudging you, they will go somewhere else. In management, a manager needs to show confidence and trustworthiness to his employees so they know he'll take care of them. So they know that she knows what she's talking about. That's how you get cooperation and respect. A manager also needs to be able to read the body language that is going along in this environment so he can see problems before they crop up, so he can solve them before they start to drag the rest of the team down. That is management body language. And leaders. Sometimes leaders aren't formal leaders. They don't have an official position, but I'm sure this has happened. You've seen this happen where the manager is someone that people don't actually like, and there's an informal leader in the group that people actually look up to. And so even though the management tree on paper looks a certain way, in reality, it's different. And that is something that happens when managers aren't aware of their body language. And so you can be a leader, even if you're not in an official capacity, by tweaking your body language. You use high-power body language to engage, inspire, and encourage. And a leader with bad body language is not in charge for long. And all of this starts with a first impression. And once you make a first impression, it is very, very difficult to change. And I can tell you this from experience. When I met my husband, he totally thought that I was a lesbian. And so he totally discounted me as a potential romantic partner. And I had to work 100 times harder in order to change his mind and win him over. And you'll see this happen with sales. You'll see this happen with leaders. If someone makes a bad first impression, or even just a mediocre first impression, they get left behind. They stand below the competition. And that is what gets you booted out. That's what gets you mediocre, average results instead of the awesome results that you really, really want. So a good first impression sets you above the competition, and it predisposes people to treat you with respect, appreciation, and deference. And depending on the study, there have been several studies that talk about first impressions. A first impression can take as little as a fraction of a second to form. And the study that talked about this looked at teachers in college. And they had two ways to score the teachers. You know, at the end of year, the students will fill out a form grading their teacher, basically. And so they had students who had actually taken that teacher's course, fill out those forms, and grade the teacher. Then they had students who saw a video of the teacher for a fraction of a second. Fraction, less than a second, fraction of a second. Fill out those forms as well. And there was no noticeable difference between the forms. And that is crazy scary. Like, why even bother having a course, like a planned syllabus, when all you need to do is make a great first impression, right? The first impression is half of the battle. I would argue it's more than half of the battle. All right. And a first impression is based on 4 factors. Most people only worry about one. And the one they worry about is the least important. Most people worry about what to say, but the science is pretty clear that when it comes to a first impression, these other things are much more important. First, body language. What you're doing with your body that tells people what you think of yourself and of them. Then, your outer appearance, which clearly broadcasts where you fit in the social scheme, what stereotypes people should apply to you. Then your voice tone. If I was to walk in and say, "Hi, I'm Arby, it's nice to meet you, let's work together," you would have a completely different impression of me than if I were to say, "Hi, I'm Arby, it's nice to meet you, let's work together." You would think you were talking to a completely different person. And the very last thing that people use to make a first impression is words. So stop focusing so much on what you're going to say. Worry more about how you're going to say it. All right. When you meet someone, I don't think we have time for this one, so I'm going to skip over it and we'll have to talk about that at a previous workshop. But let me just give you an idea. In a first impression, people will look at 2 areas to see how you score on these 2 areas. They'll look at how likable you are and how authoritative you are. Other words might be warmth and competence, or let's see, friendliness and confidence. Basically what they're looking to see is if you're safe to approach and if you're good at what you do. So I use likability and authority to measure this. And someone who's very likable, so they're high on this score, but low in authority, they'll fall over here. And that means they're well liked, but they come across as incompetent. And people don't want to take orders from them. They don't trust their judgment. They don't buy from them. Some people are very high in authority, but very unlikable. These people are feared, envied, and excluded. These are the managers you avoid because they're such jerks. These are the salespeople that you avoid because you feel like you're being steamrolled every time you meet them. The goal is to use authority body language and likable body language in conjunction so that you come across as someone who's charming, someone who deserves respect, someone who's charismatic. That is the ultimate goal when it comes to body language in sales, leadership, and management. All right, now you might be wondering what your plan is. What are the next steps when it comes to learning about body language? I am presuming that over the course of this workshop, you learned what body language is, why it matters. and how it can help you. And if you want to learn more, this is what I do. This is what I do every day. I help people master their body language. So there are a couple options. There's one I recommend, but I wanted to put them all on here. And yes, these are links. So I do one-on-one coaching. At this point, if this is your first workshop with me, you could sign up for a coaching call. If you think, wow, I love this, we're a great fit, go ahead. But I think that might be jumping the gun. I think we should get to know each other a little bit more. I do also work as a speaker. So for example, towards the end of this month, I'm flying out to Hawaii to give a keynote there in Hawaii. But I travel as a speaker and I love it. So that's also an option. Now, 2 to 3 times a month, I host an online workshop like this one, except longer. So in these online workshops, we will talk about all sorts of things. I'll click on this so you can see the subjects coming up. All right, on April 12th, I've got lie detection strategies. I've got a roadmap to conflict to help you set and keep healthy boundaries and stand up for yourself. I've got red flags to identify and avoid predators. I've got another free body language workshop. I'd host one of those a month. Confident women, how the world sees you, charisma. I host all sorts of online workshops. And so those are only $15. If there's one that catches your eye, you can schedule from that page. Again, you click right here. And let me put that link in the chat for those of you who didn't find the workshop workbook. Now, the thing I recommend that is the best value, and I found is actually the most popular, is the $24 a month, 6-month all access pass. And what this means is every workshop I host and every workshop I've ever hosted, as long as you are a current member, and this is a 6-month subscription, you attend for free. So you have access to every workshop I've ever hosted, and you have a reserved seat at every workshop I have coming up. So this is the best deal, particularly if in a certain month you see more than one workshop that you think is a good deal or that you want to attend. This is the pass that you should use. All right, or if you're like, I'm flat broke, I don't want to spend money, there is going to be another free 30-minute workshop next month. All right, so it has been about 30 minutes. We have time for a couple questions if anyone has them. And if not, I'm going to turn on the closing music so we're good to go. How do I handle nervousness? I handle nervousness because I know what nervous body language looks like. And because I know what nervous body language looks like, I know what not to do. And I know up here, I know what confident body language looks like. I have a 5-point program for confidence body language, where if you hit each of those points and boom, you're good to go. There's also a big difference in the mentality between excitement and fear, but the physiology is about the same. So if you can choose to be excited, all the signals in your body that are signaling fear, they will switch over really quickly. All right. Someone else is asking, I hate people, but I have a job as a salesman. Can you teach me to hide how annoyed and impatient I sometimes get with my customers? Yes. Yes. And so when you are working with someone you don't like, you stop sending these likability signals, which means this is how they see you. They think, oh, she really doesn't like me. Oh, she really, I feel stupid talking to this person. So if you know likability signals, you can consciously send them, which will soften the way people see you, make them feel safer, make them feel more comfortable. And I would say that is something that is crucial for you to do. Learn how to send those likability signals, because otherwise people are going to be scared of you, which you might, as a person, think that's okay because then they'll leave you alone, but in your job, that will get you fired. So I would definitely work on those likability signals. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming. I have had an absolute pleasure talking with you, and I'm going to, would I help you practice that if you scheduled one-on-one? Absolutely, yes. That is what I do with my clients. So my clients have specific goals. Some of them are looking to increase their sales. Some of them are looking to be better managers. Some of them just want to get their boss to notice them. But we sit down and I have a body language program that we go through that is specifically tailored for you and your goals. So if you are focusing on something that is needing a little more authority than it is likability, we focus on authority. If, for example, Rose, you really want to increase that likability and you need it, that is what we start with. The exclusive one-on-one coaching is specifically tailored for you. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching, and I hope I see you in an upcoming workshop. So if you haven't clicked on these links, please do, because as soon as I close down this page, which I'm about to do in the next minute, they'll be lost. So if you haven't clicked on something, go ahead and click through. All right, guys, have a good day, and see you later.